Hello, everyone. And firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this most important conference on science, spirituality, and peace. What I have to share with you is certainly will be regarded by some as controversial material, but I hope that you will be able to listen to it with an open mind. A dear friend of mine recently confessed that he is more worried about the state of the world now than at any other time in his lifetime. I know lots of people share his understandable concerns. Seeing the violent turmoil raging throughout parts of the world, together with the devastating impact of man-made climate change, many people feel extremely worried and fear for the future of humanity and the long-term stability and health of the planet. And whilst these are indeed deeply troubling times, these are not, as some believe, the end times. We are living through times of transition, times of opportunity, as we move from one civilization into another, out of one cosmic cycle or age, that of Pisces, into a new cosmic cycle or age, that of Aquarius, which with every passing day gets closer and closer. As some of you may know, each age or cycle lasts for approximately 2,350 years and comes about as the result of the movement of our sun around the heavens in relation to the 12 signs of the zodiac. This is called the precession of the equinoxes. As our sun comes into alignment with one or other of the constellations, we say we are in the age of whatever that particular constellation happens to be. For the last 2,150 years, we have been living through the age of Pisces and have been subjected to the energies associated with that particular formation. What we are witnessing now is nothing less than the death of the Piscean civilization and the birth pangs of the Aquarian, what will become known as the Aquarian civilization. A new civilization imbued with a particular set of values which will establish, hopefully, a more peaceful, just way of living. The current political, economic and social structures that govern our lives are either dead or dying. They no longer serve the needs of humanity, and fundamental change is urgently required. Millions of people around the world recognize this and are crying out for a radical shift in approach. But as the forces of the past resist the demands for change, tension and division is created, uncertainty fomented. Historically, at such a time where we transition from one age to another, a teacher, a divine teacher, has come forward to guide humanity. This time we will find it is no different from the past. Largely unreported by mainstream media, the British artist and writer Benjamin Creme, who sadly died last year aged 94, spent the previous 40 years of his life travelling the world, telling anyone who would listen that the teacher for this age, the Lord Maitreya, is in the world, and with a large group of his closest disciples, the Masters of Wisdom, is gradually emerging into full public work. It is a story I first heard in October 1987 and intuitively recognised to be completely and utterly true. It is an extraordinary tale of hope and wonder that demands our attention and open-minded inquiry. If the story is true, and as I say, I believe it absolutely is, it will be seen to be the single most important event of this, or indeed any other time. The coming of a guide or teacher sits within a long-held tradition that recognises the cyclical pattern of such momentous events. It is known in the East as the doctrine of avatars, in the West as the doctrine of the coming one. Throughout the ages, a teacher has come forth at certain specific times. As Krishna made clear in the Bhagavad Gita, quotes, "Whenever there is a withering of the law and an uprising of lawlessness on all sides, then I manifest myself. For the salvation of the righteous and the destruction of such as do evil, for the firm establishing of the law, I come to birth age after age." While looking around this world of ours, there would certainly appear to be an uprising of lawlessness on all sides, and the implementation of man-made laws, never mind the adherence to laws from a higher source, shall we say, is definitely withering. Maitreya was foretold to come at this time by the previous Buddha, Gautama Buddha. Gautama had said 2,600 years ago, said that at the beginning of this cycle, the age of Aquarius, there would come into the world another great teacher, a Buddha like himself, by name Maitreya. And he would inspire humanity to create a brilliant golden civilization based, as he said, on righteousness and truth. Well, to talk of the appearance of a divine teacher in our cynical materialistic world sounds fantastical to many, who will no doubt dismiss even the possibility. But it is a promise held close by all the world's religions and something hoped for by millions, if not billions, of people. All religious groups await the coming of their particular teacher. Christians expect Christ, usually seen as Jesus Christ. Hindus look for the coming of Krishna. Buddhists await Maitreya Buddha. Muslims are hoping for the appearance of the Imam Mahdi. Some believe he is already here. And Jews still await the Messiah. Students of esotericism, or the ageless wisdom teachings, of which I would count myself, understand these various titles to be different names for the one and the same individual, the Lord Maitreya, the world teacher and head of our spiritual hierarchy. He, though, prefers to be known simply as the teacher. He says all such titles as Christ and Buddha and Imam Mahdi are divisive, and different groups then think they own the teacher. He is a teacher for everybody. The existence of the spiritual hierarchy was first made known in recent times by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, author of Isis Unveiled and The Secret Doctrine, published in 1875, and the co-founder of the Theosophical Society. She spoke of the existence of a group of perfected men who, together with their disciples, form the spiritual hierarchy of this planet. Blavatsky worked closely with certain senior members of the hierarchy, living with them for periods of time in the Himalayas. This large group of men are the elder brothers of humanity, those who have gone ahead of us in evolution, as Benjamin Creme puts it. They are, he says, the custodians of the evolutionary plan of the planet, and have been so since the very dawn of time. The spiritual hierarchy constitutes the inner government, as it were, of the planet. They have lived for millennia in the remote regions of the world, the mountains, deserts and forests, far from the chaos, noise and pollution of the towns and cities. Following on from Helena Blavatsky's groundbreaking work, from 1920 to 1941, another Russian woman, Helena Rurik, worked with certain senior masters, including Maitreya, and facilitated the writing of the Agni Yoga teachings. Then came an extensive, highly detailed body of work transcribed by Alice A. Bailey, an extraordinary British woman from strong Christian roots. Bailey served as the amanuensis, as it's called, for one of the masters, known simply as the Tibetan. She wrote many books from 1919 to 1949. Details of the structure of the spiritual hierarchy are laid out in the first book she wrote, called Initiation Human and Solar, and in The Reappearance of the Christ, as well as the externalization of the hierarchy, we find information about the emergence of Maitreya and the masters into the everyday world. The works produced by these extraordinary women form individual parts of a series of interconnected sequential teachings. Benjamin Krem's writings and talks follow on in planned order. He had an extremely close relationship with one of the masters with whom he was in telepathic contact with. The spiritual hierarchy is known by various names: the Great White Brotherhood, the Society of Illumined Minds, the Masters of Wisdom, and Lords of Compassion, of which there are three. Maitreya is one of these great ones, as they are known, and for the last 2,150 years, approximately, he has held the office of World Teacher. Maitreya embodies the Christ consciousness, or Christ principle of the Christian theologian, the Vishnu aspect, the energy of love. He is the Lord of love. Maitreya is, Alice Bailey says, quotes, that great being whom the Christian calls the Christ. He is known also in the Orient as the Bodhisattva and as the Lord Maitreya. He is the great Lord of love and of compassion, as the Buddha was the Lord of wisdom. He is the Christ for this planet, and to him is committed the guidance of the spiritual destinies of mankind. He is the world teacher for this coming cycle. He is the coming one. Like teachers before him, Maitreya explains that mankind is divine. I have come to teach the art of self-realization, he says, which is neither an ideology nor a religion, but benefits people of all religions and those who have none. You are the self, he says, a divine being. Suffering is caused by identification with anything and everything which is not the self. Ask yourself, who am I? You will see that you are identified with either matter, the body, or with thought, the mind, or with power, spirit. But, Maitreya says, you are none of these. Maitreya comes to guide and inspire us. He has been in the everyday world since the 19th of July 1977, when he descended from his mountain retreat deep in the Himalayas and arrived into his point of focus, as he calls it, which is London. Since then, he's been gradually emerging step by step. He has not come to establish a new religion, nor is he interested in attracting followers. He is a teacher in the broadest sense, a teacher for all of humanity. His core message is that humanity is one. And he says that the answers to our problems are really very simple. Share and save the world, he advocates. Take your brother's need as the measure for your actions and solve the problems of the world. Inspired by Maitreya's presence and the inflow of new energies which bring people together and synthesize and encourage cooperation and so on, unprecedented worldwide social movements for change have developed. Alongside these, we have seen signs of miraculous events taking place. A plethora of miraculous happenings have been recorded over the last 30 years or so, extraordinary things. If I just share some of them with you. In July 1991, Life magazine's cover story asked, "Do you believe in miracles?" Well, apparently the majority of people do, in fact. The magazine reported that thousands of unexplained miraculous phenomena are occurring worldwide. And in 1995, Time magazine devoted 8 pages to its cover story on miracles, included that people are hungry for signs. Well, the world is overflowing with such signs, most of which go totally unreported. Just a few examples. In America, Australia, New Zealand, India, the Philippines, Britain, Germany, and elsewhere, miraculous crosses of light have been springing up in homes and in churches. Unexplained healing has been attributed to these crosses. Mysterious and beautiful patterns of light have been photographed on buildings and pavements all over the world, throughout Europe, in America, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Japan, Canada, and elsewhere. Icons of the Madonna, of Jesus, and the Buddha are discovered weeping water, weeping oil or blood. And in what is perhaps the most widespread example of an unexplained phenomenal event, the Hindu milk miracle on 21st of September 1995 occurred when, at the time of worship, when devotees were offering milk to Hindu deities, the statue of Ganesh or Krishna or Shiva would appear to drink the milk that was offered to them. Now, the Hindu milk miracle took place in cities from Delhi to London and all over the world where Hindus were worshipping. I think in Delhi, the public officials were given days off, and there were I know in London there were queues around Hindu temples. Now, that miracle, like many of the other miracles, is orchestrated by Maitreya and certain masters who specialize in such activity. Maitreya himself has been appearing to groups of all kinds of people all over the world. In one such event on Saturday, the 11th of June 1988, he miraculously appeared at an open-air prayer meeting in a shanty town in Nairobi, Kenya. Around 6,000 people were present, and when he appeared literally out of the blue, people cried out, "Jesus, Jesus, 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 Christu, Christu, Christu." At the event, the then editor of the Kenyan Times was present, a man called Job Mutungi, and he wrote about it and took photographs. He said, quotes, "The tall figure of a barefooted, white-robed and bearded man appeared from nowhere and stood in the middle of the crowd. He disappeared literally into thin air. Several people who witnessed this were astonished by his mysterious appearance and disappearance." The tall figure was, of course, Maitreya. The purpose of these miracles and others, and there have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, has always been to engender faith and wonder. The function of the present miracles has a specific purpose, and that is to act as the signs of the presence of Maitreya, to show people that something extraordinary is taking place and to create a climate of hope and expectation into which Maitreya can emerge. In December 2008, Benjamin Crumb announced the latest and potentially the most spectacular sign that would take place. He said that 4 great star-like luminaries of gigantic power would be seen throughout the world. The purpose of these stars, as they are called, is to act as a herald for Maitreya. In a similar way, but this time seen throughout the 4 corners of the world, in a similar way as the Star of Bethlehem did at the birth of Jesus. They look like stars, Benjamin Crumb says, only bigger and brighter and nearer. They have tremendous brilliance. They change colour and move, but they appear like a star. However, unlike a star, they move and change colour. Stars do not do such things. Beginning in January 2009 and continuing up until today, sightings of these stars began being recorded. The celestial phenomena have been seen changing size, colour and shape and moving, behaviour that suggests these beautiful unexplained objects in the skies are not real stars, which, as we know, are set in space millions of miles from Earth and certainly do not move or change shape. Sightings have been reported from Norway, Costa Rica, the United States, Ukraine, Japan, Britain, Turkey, and scores of other countries. Video recordings have been taken and uploaded to YouTube, Newspaper and TV reports have been widely published. Such events, and there are lots, have convinced large numbers of people from varying backgrounds that the appearance of the coming one is imminent. Many people of different religious backgrounds now expect the return of their awaited teacher. As I say, some already believe the teacher is here. Unlike previous teachers before him, Maitreya comes himself. In the past, the teacher has always worked through a disciple. This was the case with Jesus, who Maitreya overshadowed for 3 years, from the baptism to the crucifixion. The same process took place with Prince Gautama, who was overshadowed by the previous world teacher, the Buddha. This time, however, Maitreya comes himself, and he will be with humanity for the whole of the age of Aquarius. And he's not alone. As I say, he comes with a large group of his senior disciples, the Masters of Wisdom. There are a number of masters now in the world. There's a master in each of the 5 major centres in the world, which is London, New York, Geneva, Darjeeling, and Tokyo. There is also a master in Rome. He is the Master Jesus. Now a highly evolved master, Jesus works in the closest possible way with the Lord Maitreya, and he will be one of the first masters that Maitreya will introduce after he is publicly known. Maitreya comes to advise and to teach, to guide us in the ways of brotherhood. Benjamin Creme said that in the first place, we will find that he will lay the emphasis on the oneness of humanity, on the fact of the human soul, and on the need for sharing and right relationships. He will teach again the law of cause and effect, and its relation to the law of rebirth, showing the need for harmlessness in all relationships. Maitreya will galvanize and inspire those calling for change. He will voice the concerns of the many, the marginalized and exploited, those living in destitution and stifling poverty, suffering abuse and crippling hardship. Between September 1977 and June 1982, Maitreya gave 140 messages through Benjamin Creme. In one of these messages, message number 11, he outlined some of his concerns. Throughout the world, there are men, women, and little children who do not have even the essentials to stay alive. They crowd the cities of many of the poorest countries in the world. This crime fills me with shame. My brothers, how can you watch these people die before your eyes and call yourselves men? My plan is to save these, my little ones, from certain starvation and needless death. Maitreya will guide and inspire humanity, and together with his masters, he will show the way out of the myriad crises facing humanity. He will encourage a new imagination to tackle the systemic problems and the interconnected environmental catastrophe. But we must be open-minded, ready for change, and prepared to listen. We are the ones who will make the needed changes, not Maitreya or the masters. Change is desperately needed if we are to eradicate poverty, bring about social justice, save the planet, and crucially create peace. The crisis facing humanity is a spiritual crisis, albeit one that is focused in the political and economic sphere, and it is here that it must be resolved. It is a crisis of ideas and values. How, Maitreya asks, can you be content with the modes within which you now live, when millions starve and die in squalor, when the rich parade their wealth before the poor, when each man is his neighbour's enemy, when no man trusts his brother. For how long must you live thus, my friends? For how long can you support this degradation? Thank you.